Yo,
Guten Tag, Fräulein.
welcome to November Foxtrot episode 139. Tonight we're going to be doing an Airsoft MilSim Q&A. Hello everybody, welcome. Hi Andy,
Welcome.
how are you?
Which one am I meant to
way.
look? That one. Hi.
We cannot join by Lance tonight. He's unfortunately got a work meeting, so
And he's been moving bales of hay.
Yeah, that's the most random message that just came in. Just literally, it's like, yeah, I'm absolutely shagged, guys, because just been moving all of these. Literally, just pictures of hay bales, which was quite strange.
And a landy, and we were like, okay,
Yeah.
as you do, mate. As you do.
Classic Lance. Hi Kenny, hi Pony Tony, Fresh Meat, Kieran, Paulus Wales, Pegasus, Richard, Daz, Marky Mark, Les, all right. James McNary, Rage, good evening. I apologise that we are a little bit late. Basically, and this makes sense in a second, we started having a chat just between us about webbing sets, and then didn't realise what the time was, and then we were like, oh, let's just have this chat on the show.
Yes. So we'll do that after the news.
Well, we might as well talk about it in the news because you've just bought it.
Or as the news, yes.
So let's roll into the news.
News.
I take my gun and I go, pew, 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 pew.
News. There we go.
It's the news. None of us have a fancy background like Lance.
I've got my I need to get a new camnet actually. This is a dual camnet system, so I've got one over the other. You can just about sort of make that in the background. The other one's got a massive gash in the middle of it.
Oh yeah, that was your glory hole.
It's formed. Yeah, it's formed by a series of smaller camnets that have effectively been sewn together, or like little ties that tie them together, and the ties have all fallen out. So rather than fix it, I just bought another one and put it over the top. But I might change the colour. I was thinking we could have a different colour background.
I reckon you should go desert.
I could go desert. Maybe I'll get like different ones for different seasons. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah. Right, news-wise, Andy, you might as well go first, and we'll talk about webbing sets.
Well, no, we'll leave the webbing set till last. Have you got any purchases?
I've got a purchase, so I've bought some weighted plates. I didn't show these on the show last week. These are from Wolverson Fitness. They are curved.
For your pleasure.
For my pleasure. So they have a slight... Because I was quite interested to find that a lot of it's quite hard to get curved plates. They're not avidly available. Obviously, these aren't ballistic ones because they've got a whacking great big hole in the middle. So you're only really lucky if you get shot there. It's not going to give you any ballistic protection. But they are slightly scored on one side, so you can just about make out the scoring on the video. There we go. And they're sort of bent along those lines, so you kind of get a bit of curvature going on. They are 2.5 kilos, so I've got back and front. And I've not actually had a chance to properly use them yet. I've walked around the house in them, given them a little bit of a test. I've got them in an old Condor rig at the moment. Let me just grab that up. So it's just an old Condor rig. This was the one I used to use before I swapped over to my Warrior Assault Systems, where it is, DCS. My plan is to get used to wearing the weight first before I randomly just rock up to an event with the extra weight in.
I've seen a few people, Pony Tony being one, unfortunately, bought a set of weighted plates and went over in his ankle. Not probably because he wasn't used to the weight. I think he went down a rabbit hole. But then
you're not used to dealing with that weight. That's the thing.
Yeah. So you kind of.
I mean, I have a slight advantage because obviously I'm used to dealing with a lot of weight normally, but not the extra weight.
Yeah, carrying me in Lance.
Oh no, I just meant this.
Oh, physically.
Yeah, so I've been doing some training sessions with a small group of guys. That sounds really dodgy, but sort of just doing some skills and bits and pieces like that. So my plan is to try and wear them for those a little bit first, and then start running them at events. So, for example, I'm not running them at NAF, as Edward just mentioned. Price-wise, I will dig out the price. They were £20. Oh, they're actually reduced now. The ones I bought were
that's irritating.
£40, £40 for the two, and they were £20 each. If you want to buy just one, you can also do the 5 kilo ones, which apparently they now have in stock. I didn't get the 5 kilos. because they weren't in stock at the time, but now they are. They are full metal. You can get composite ones, but these are proper, chunky bit of metal. And I thought the inlay was quite cool. So the little laser cut wolf on there for the, I say it's Wolverson Fitness. Thought it was quite a cool little logo. Looks a little bit November Foxtrot-y. Not that anyone's going to see it, but I know it's there.
Unless you buy one of those skeleton plate carriers.
Or just some gaffer tape, just stuck that to my chest, and then everyone will see it.
You definitely know when you get hit, though, wouldn't you?
So I'll put the links on the chat for Marky Mark, who's asked for those. And following on from Richard's comment as well, like how the weighted plates make my PC conform better to my body. I've already noticed that, even with the Condor. So the Condor setup, it's not a bad plate carrier, to be fair. I ran that for a fair few years before I decided to have something a little bit more bulky. I say bulky, a little bit more, decent, basically. Stitching on these started to fall apart after a little while from fair use. I mean, you can see there on the sort of the threads and things hanging off of it.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with this. I was actually going to sell it, and then I bought the plates and I thought, well, this would be a perfect vest to whack them in because I haven't got anything on it. Yeah, I can just run around with that and there's no problem at all. So it's a nice little lightweight system.
When it sits better on your body as well, because
exactly that.
Put my weighted plates in, I was like, this is a game changer. Like literally, it sits because they're designed to have that sort of weight in, not just airsoft pouches or airsoft magazines and things like that. Literally, it just sat so much nicely on my body, and when I was changing mags, I wasn't lifting up the plate carrier with it. It just kind of sat there as it was meant to, and it was so much more comfortable. And then as I got better with my fitness, I increased the weight.
One thing I have noticed is it's probably quite hard to explain. There's quite a lot of loose fabric now on this plate carrier, where it's used to having a thicker insert in there. So funnily enough, as Pegasus has just said, I'd recommend getting some neoprene foam on the back for the added comfort. I'm planning to add an element of foam in there as well, just to bulk that out a little bit more. So you've still got the weight, but it's just going to fill it a little bit better. So when it's, everything's attached, there's nothing sort of sliding around and bits and pieces of that.
Yeah, see, the ones I got,
the idea of falling over and then having a whole load of metal just straight on my chest doesn't really appeal.
See, my ones aren't metal. They're the thick. It's almost like the matting you get in kids' playgrounds now, where it's sort of like a rubber. It's a bit like that's been cut into shape and weighted, and it doesn't flex or anything at all. It's just like, but it's softer. So like if you do go over it, it will contour to your body a little bit more. But yeah,
see, I went for the metal ones because at some point I want to get shot and hear that pa-ding.
But they'd be good when I want to put up my weight, because I can stick my current ones to that plate. So having a thin plate, weighted plate one, if I wanted to go back up to the next weight, I could get a couple of those ones and put them in, and get me up to, I think the next one would be 12. 12 would be my next one.
It says, I genuinely thought you were going to say you've started a NoFo plate brand. Yeah, no, to be fair.
we did say it.
But it looks a little bit like that. It's quite cool. So, shout out to Wolverson Fitness, who had no problems purchasing from them. It all seemed fine. That's probably the best review I can give of them. I haven't had a great deal of experience with that. But yeah, we'll put some links up on the... on the socials a little bit. Les asks a good question as to why you would buy them. I'll let you go first, Andy, because you've had yours for longer.
So I bought mine because I found that my plate carrier was twisting, because I just had the free packing foam ones in there. And when I was taking my magazine, as soon as I bought the Kydex inserts for me magazines, I found that if I was moving, my plate carrier would rub my delicate areas and my nipples. He asked the question.
Some
So
people
I'm
pay a lot of money for that.
Yeah. And I think it was actually Pegasus that said, "Have a look at weighted plates because it holds everything where it's meant to be." And literally went out and bought some, and honest game changer. Within a couple of months, I changed to a slightly heavier weight because I found that my Kydex inserts were, when I was taking the magazines out, it was still lifting up a little bit. But now I've gone to the slightly heavier weight. Everything just sits properly how it's meant to be. And it only takes, personally for me, it took probably 2, maybe 3 games. And obviously walking around the house for a couple of months. So I reckon about a month in total. And I kind of got used to the added weight. But yeah, that was the reason that I bought them. Mainly for, I know it sounds mad, but for comfort. Comfort and fitment.
I bought mine for fitness, really. I'm already a hot, sweaty mess running around the airsoft field, so I thought, why not add a little bit more weight, get a little bit hotter and a little bit sweatier. Basically, I do a job that involves sitting down 90% of the day, so I figured that ultimately I need to make better use of the time I can get some exercise. My plan is to also potentially buy a covert style vest that I can slide the plates into, and then if I go for a walk, I don't want to be wandering around in a ballistic plate carrier because that, for starters, looks like you're a complete nutter.
Well, I don't know around our area.
In some places, it's safer.
It's just the norm.
Yeah, but my plan was to kind of A, it gets me used to wearing them. B, I guess there's an element of, with airsoft, there's that kind of role play aspect. Of which we all kind of want to, we all buy the surplus stuff because we want to have that kind of proper surplus, like military stuff, rather than just, stuff that we just bought online or whatever. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, the other thing is I have had the same problem as Andy mentioned before in terms of the plate carrier sliding up. The Condor one, funnily enough, I used to pair with a battle belt, and it was actually permanently fixed to the battle belt, with the theory that I can tighten the battle belt at the bottom and it holds the plate carrier down.
Yeah, I tried that.
There's nothing worse than when you're sort of running around, you lay on the floor and you've got the plate carrier basically coming straight up in your face. I mean, it may still do the same thing, and at this point it's going to be a lot harder if it does hit you in the jaw.
Well, when you naturally, like the way your body forms, when you get down low, you do occasionally get it coming up a little bit higher. It's just you've got something solid there. And if you've got massive childbearing hips or massive something else, you are naturally going to raise it up. Like, you can't help that. That's just physics. that's just the way it is. But instead of it going up and staying up, now when you get yourself into position, it naturally sits back down to where it wants to sit. It's very rare that you end up having like your shoulder straps coming up and just staying up there, and then you having to pull your plate carrier down. That extra weight just makes it slide back down without you really even noticing.
Yeah. And
it does make it a lot quicker. Once you get used to that little bit of extra weight, it's so much quicker to get mags and re-index mags. And
well, I mean, the other thing is that if you need to do a speed assault or whatever, ditch the plate carrier, and at that point you just be fucking nailing it down the field because you're like, oh my god, I'm so much lighter, just sprinting away down the field. It'd be great. Yeah. Ed has said, I think you should seriously do some plate merch, but instead of armor plates, you should print your logo onto dinner plates. We have, funnily enough, debated.
We've done a spoon. We've done a spoon.
There was a conversation a long time ago where Lance proposed the idea of doing November Foxtrot tea cozies.
Oh yeah.
Or like, when we were originally talking about doing merch, funnily enough, we just sort of went down the route of, let's not do practical merch. Let's do stuff that, I don't know why, it's just completely pointless stuff. Like, the November Foxtrot tyre repair kit.
Oh, wasn't the toilet? Do you remember when you're at your grand's house where you had the toilet cut?
Oh yeah, the toilet roll holder.
The toilet roll holder. We were talking about a little NoFo Fox, one of them, weren't we?
Condoms was brought up at one point as well, because when everybody's in the mood, the first thing they think of is us, is preventing fun, or babies even.
But we did go down a rabbit hole with that one, because then we went from a fox to all of our faces on the end, just smiling at you. Hello.
There you go.
That is child. That is that is protection and a half, isn't it? You take that out and see that smiling at you, you'd be like, no, not in the mood anymore.
Pegasus says it's amazing how the weight disappears when you put your plate carrier on.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, that's the thing. It's weird to kind of notice how quickly you start ignoring it. But then I can imagine you will start noticing it a lot more towards the end of the day when you're fucking knackered.
Yeah.
So,
but then once you get used to it, I think that's when you benefit from it. Because I got to admit, the first game that I played in it, I was just like, what have I done? Because I was just absolutely shagged. My legs were aching. But then the next game where I got used to it a little bit more, done a little bit more prep work in regards to like what foods I ate beforehand. I actually noticed the difference of how it sat and things like that. And in a vehicle, absolutely brilliant. I prefer having a weighted plate in a vehicle than I do having the bendy ones. Because, like I said, when as soon as you get out of the vehicle, it naturally falls back into position instead of it being like 45 degrees.
Ed says serious tip here, so take that with a pinch of salt because Ed does have a wicked sense of humour. If I'm worried about a chest rig rubbing, I will wear it topless, and that will fast identify any points of rubbing. I mean, you're not wrong.
No, yeah, no, it is a good.
I mean, I feel you probably identify a lot more rubbing points if you haven't got a top on, because obviously the top's providing you an element of, you've obviously got various materials between you and the thing that's rubbing against you.
I just think Ed wants to see us running around topless.
There is that possibility. Ed, we'll be in touch about the NoFo charity calendar. Les says, where do you draw the line to spending a lot of money on kit for it to sit in the corner of a... I'll tell you what, hang on, sorry, I've really started going into questions. I'll come back to that, Les. Andy, did you want to talk about your purchases? Because I'm already 20 minutes into news.
Well, they're old purchases, but they finally arrived. As some of you may have seen on the lovely post that I put out there, thanks Royal Fail, you bunch of twats. My Kydex customs order turned up, so I bought the radio holder, which I'm very impressed with. But one thing is that I think it should have a cover. We were talking about this earlier, weren't we?
A little knob.
I think it should have a little knob cover. Again, going down that route. But yeah, it holds it really well. I'm quite impressed. That would be going on my something. I bought it. Don't even know what I'm going to put it on.
So you bought it in black. Why the choice of black out of interest?
Because they don't do these in other colours.
Fair enough.
So
that might be a rattle can job.
Yeah, so it'll be primed with etch primer. So it digs in a bit better. Black etch primer, and then I will probably spray it tan, or maybe do a bit of a camo colour like I've done on my Mark 18 and M249. Like give it a bit of dusting.
Paul as well says you can 3D print a cover, Andy.
Yeah, I can, but I've only ever printed one thing, and he came out smaller than I was expecting. So it did not go well.
The way?
The missus was not happy when I tried making her a free toy, and it came out really small. And then make sure that nothing's on there that YouTube and my... See, this one comes with cover. And that's my new pistol pouch or Kydex insert. Very impressed with them. Highly recommend. Apart from thanks, Russia, for taking up the time because he has to print stuff off for you, other people. Thanks.
Yep.
Did you buy anything else, or should I go into our long conversation?
No, I didn't buy anything else. Not noticeably. I probably have bought some other bits and pieces, but yeah. I'll tell you what. Just while you get the other thing up, my wife bought my daughter like a spray and play kit. So it's designed as like this inflatable palm tree. You plug a hose in, and then the hose feeds water to this internal plumbing network, and it's sort of like water jets kind of bubbling up and coming out the pump. So the instructions on how to connect the hose. Step 1, connect hose. Like, because it doesn't come with the quick lock hose connections. It doesn't come with one of those. It comes with a screw thread, and not the screw thread. Not a helpful screw thread, put it that way.
So
I've had
cut
to
the end off and just put a normal.
Well, I've had to buy a connector now that screws them because I think it needs a male connector for the quick lock system, and then that should deal with it.
I would have just cut it off and put a normal hose.
The bigger
on.
thing I found was just the step one to connect the hose. Step one, connect hose. It's like cookery instructions to bake a pie. Step one, bake pie. Like, it's just
bake a pie.
It really annoyed me. Anyway, all right, go on. Rant over.
So I bought myself this bag. I don't know what the bag actually is called.
That's the field pack. So it's for GSRs.
And it was previously owned by Jennings. Thank you, Jennings, for leaving. And it is full of PLCE webbing. So the little belt. I haven't actually gone through this yet.
Just while you're getting out, Lance has chipped up. Says,
hello,
hi, all.
Lance.
Sorry for my absence this evening. Have a good meeting, buddy. We'll miss you.
Little pouch.
Cardboard box.
Another little. Oh, a double pouch. Double pouch with bits on it. I'm guessing that's for the connection, isn't it?
Yeah. This is the chat we were having before the show because Andy.
Because I've never bought one of these.
A lot about
I don't do a
PLC
lot of webbing.
kit, so your harness kit, which is obviously the bit that goes over your shoulders and everything like that, will connect to those black tabs on the top of the pouches.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha.
And then the PLCE system, from my understanding, and by all means correct me, is a little T-bar set up. So each of the pouches has like a little T-bar on the back. Some may have one or two, but the idea is that you then put that through a little indent in the belt setup. So the belt's effectively got like a vertical molly system. It's not molly.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's like a little molly type-esque system that the T-bar perfectly slots into. And it means that the pouch itself is then obviously connected to the belt. So you do the rest of the straps on there as well. Connect to the belt, and it won't slide along, because that's the thing with a lot of belt pouches. If you just use like belt buckles or something like that, there's nothing to stop the belt from just moving around.
Sliding around, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I picked that up from, what was it? 24 Delta Supplies Surplus? 24 Delta Surplus. He's also the lovely gentleman that supplied you the food for our intro into MilSim. He has a Facebook page. And we're looking to do future endeavors with him.
There's a plan. There's a plan in progress.
That we need to sit down and we need to hash out. But yeah.
Yes.
Very grumpy individual, but he's as lovely as pie. For when he's
Step one,
back.
bake pie.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Should we finish the news?
But yeah, that was it. That was cool. My purchases for the week. And my tent's held up somewhere. I don't know where it is.
I need to create like a purchase of the week thing. Like a purchase of the week.
Yeah, my T. Was it T4? That French tent that I said that I bought.
No, it's a F.
I don't know what the
F1?
designation. F1. I don't know what the designation was. It was just sold as a French.
F2. Sorry. F2.
That's disappeared. Apparently they've sent it, and it hasn't arrived. So probably royal fail again, being pricks. So a little bit annoyed about that.
If any of you are postmen for Royal Mail,
you're not a prick.
Please don't get upset.
Yeah. Just the company you work for is an arse, especially if you're around the Hemel Hempstead area and you're an arse. Or you could be one of these arseholes that get a load of free airsoft kit.
Right, that's the end of the news.
Pew, pew, pew.
We had a question come in right at the start of the show from Marky Mark. Is Mother Fraser still making them bandages, or have you got any? So we have 4 left. Oh. We have 4 of the original batch of bandages. Yeah, if you've got one to hand, that'd be really helpful. So these are
in my belt kit.
These bandages have been designed along the basis of trying to mirror a reusable Israeli bandage setup. Now, I appreciate it looks nothing like an Israeli bandage. It's effectively a foam pad in a cotton sleeve. attached to a sports bandage. We've been selling them pretty much at cost. So we're not really making a lot of money. Any of the money that is made has been split between the podcast and my mum's crafting group, who have
Got to
been
love mum
helping.
casting group. And look, wounded.
Exactly.
I'm going to put some blood on mine, I think.
Yeah.
But that's...
So there you go. So the idea is it's a self-attaching bandage. There's a bit of Velcro on there. The Velcro doesn't have to go to the actual receiving bit of Velcro. It's attached to the bandage itself. So if anyone would like one, please get in touch. We can sort something out for you.
It's very good. Takes seconds to put on. No direction.
Yeah, we funnily enough, we're talking at the NoFo intro to MilSim event about the prospect of coming up with a consumable for it. So the one thing we felt it missed was that kind of packaging that you tear open with your teeth. So we were sort of debating whether we could get something like that. Not really very practical.
Edible one.
For the actual, well, it could be edible. That would be quite. Like, just I have to buy a whole load of edible pants and like cut them up and like sew them together somehow.
Why has this man bought 4,000 pairs of edible pants?
Don't judge me as I'm sitting there cutting the strings off and stuff. But, yeah.
So yes, we have some left.
We have some left. Daz says, Andy, look around your bins if you're
No, because they don't put them around the bins. They just put them on top, apparently. And then leave me a note saying, we put it on top of your bin.
Right, if you've got any questions for the show tonight, please feel free to throw them in the chat. If you can attach a little cue to the beginning, as you may have seen already with some of the questions, it just helps us identify them in the chat thread as it comes through. Les asks...
Evening, Harry.
Oh, hi, Harry. Also, sorry, Rich McRae. Alex could have done with one of those at the weekend for his golf wound. So Richard's son, Alex, seemed to sustain some ridiculous injury with a golf club. I'm not 100% certain.
I miss that?
The ins and outs of it. There's a photo on one of the chat groups of just this huge wound. So big shout out to Alex and hope he gets better soon because that looked pretty awful. I know everyone's been taking the piss, but you know, I felt a bit bad for him.
I'll tell you what,
pretty bad.
In golf, like there's two injuries: a golf ball to the face or a golf club to the face. Either of those are going to hurt.
Yeah, but this was like a proper open wound. This was I'm not quite sure what had happened there to cause that, but
or ran over by a golf cart.
Yeah, true.
And
on that jolly note,
do airsoft instead.
Yeah, Les says, where do you draw the line to spending a lot of money on kit for it to sit in the corner of a room and gather dust? Again, why?
So, I will take this one. I do not collect kit like most people. I will have... I've got one Bergen. I've got one day sack. I've got two sleeping bags, one for either seasons, like cold and warm. One plate carrier, one chest rig, one set of web, 4 sets of webbing now. Because I haven't found one that...
The rot has started to set in, Andy.
Yeah. Because I haven't found one that I've been comfortable in. So I'm trying to get a few together so I can kind of like mix and match them and use the pouches on some of the pouches I like. But then what I'll do is I'll shift those other 4 on. So I'll keep the one and then I'll get rid of those other 3. I don't like having stuff sitting around collecting dust. I can't. No. I can understand why people do, but I'm not one of those people. I just, if I buy kit and it's not getting used after 6 months, it gets sold. Because then I'll buy a bit of kit that I know that I want. That wasn't a dig at Mike or Lance. That was just me being OCD with my kit.
I am similar to that. In that I buy things that I need. However, no, so there's 2 facets to stuff that I buy. There is stuff that I want to build on a certain loadout or something like that. So, for example, I've got a number of different variations of loadouts. I have found in the past that that has given me the ability to be quite flexible in terms of what faction I want to join, if I want to do any role play activities in the game, or for example, say, and I've been to some events in the past where it's been useful to have a completely different set of clothes, where I've then effectively acted as a spy, as a UN Swiss doctor, for example, or something like that. So I've put together like a full setup for that, and it's not something I've necessarily worn again.
So you have a
but
costume
I really like
wardrobe.
Yes, basically a costume.
Yeah.
But I have a slight issue in that I like doing things properly. So, for example, when I did the Swiss loadout, I decided I didn't want to replicate anything sort of too specifically. So I used a Polish camo. I used a Swiss cap badge for the doctor loadout, and then when I was a UN doctor, I had like the blue beret with the UN badge. But I like doing things as sort of properly as possible, basically. So I had like a plate carrier in that camouflage pattern and everything like that, so it looked proper.
Yeah.
Now the problem is that I'm also a bit of a hoarder, and I acknowledge the fact I'm a bit of a hoarder, and I don't think that's a surprise to anybody on the show. I collect military surplus to an extent. I've got some, to me, quite interesting pieces. So, for example, Osprey vests. We've all seen them out and about. Osprey, there's a lot of them in multicam, and there's a few in Desert DPM. Desert DPM. I've managed to get hold of a Woodland DPM version of that as well, which was produced as like a test batch to see like if the British Army or whoever would take that on. I've got a couple of the blue ones for the civilian loadouts. I've got a multitude of Mark 6 and Mark 6A and Mark 7 helmets. I've got 4 vehicle crew helmets. So I'm a little bit of a collector in that sense.
But you're a collector. Like some of that you would know you haven't bought to go out on the field. You've collected you've bought it as a collection. Yes.
So there are some things that I have bought to go out on the field. And I think one of the biggest problems, funnily enough, in the airsoft industry is that we don't have the equivalent of like an airsoft Debenhams or something like that. So you can't just go and try all this stuff on, because it would be I think the amount of stuff that is purchased for airsoft would drastically reduce if they had the ability that you could try these things on before you bought them. Now, I don't mean try as in, you put it on and then run around the game zone, because I appreciate that might not... you might find that a certain plate carrier or something like that isn't suited to you, and at that point you can't really return it. But there's just so many things that you buy, and it's like, oh yeah, I like that, but now I've got it, I'm not really using it or something like that, and you have to sell it on as a private sale. You can't just return it, which is annoying.
That's why I've ended up with 4 bits of webbing, because I haven't found one that I'm comfortable with. Like the ones that I've done the events in, they've either rubbed in certain areas, or the belt it's been too thick, or the pouches haven't been exactly how I want them to be, and things like that. So I've kind of got a bit of a collection to make up one belt kit that I'm happy, or webbing set that I'm happy with. And then but like you said, you can't go into a shop and go, like, how good would it be to walk into a shop and go, right, I want that harness, that belt, that pouch, that pouch, that pouch, that pouch, that pouch. Build it all together, try it out for a bit, and then pay for it. Like, that would be amazing. Like, pennies, like, pick your own. But
I think that's realistically why the second-hand airsoft market is quite so big as it is. You look at eBay, anything like that, all of this surplus military kit and everything like that, the reason it's constantly changing hands and stuff like that is because people are trying to find the setup that suits them. It might be that you put together an MTP loadout and you go, yeah, this is really great, and then you decide to stop and do something else. There's a lot of surplus equipment out there. You look at the number of surplus shops out and about, so there's clearly a lot of stock available that's floating around. You've got people leaving and joining the army. You've got cadet forces that use the same stuff as well.
Yeah. But it's all online.
That's the problem.
No one really has a shop that, like, you might have a army surplus shop that you can go to, but I'm not sure how willing they would be if you started taking off like the yokes off of one and putting it on a belt and then swapping. I'm not sure how shop owners would feel about that unless it's something that they advertise. But yeah, I agree. I think that's why the second-hand market kit is so. Like I've bought bits of kit and I've gone, oh, I'm size 40 trousers. They're size 40, and you buy them, you try them on, and you're like, oh, these are like 44 long, and I'm a short ass. You end up
and then it's the cost of returning stuff as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to admit, I have been. I'd say they're a friend of mine. They might not agree, but there is somebody that I admire, to be honest, in terms of their generosity, and I've been trying to replicate that a little bit. So I'm unfortunately not in a position at this moment of time where I can just, if I've got something I've spent a lot of money on, I can't just give that away. I can't afford to do that. But I have effectively got like a level in my head of bits of kit that I've bought, and I've gone, you know what, I'll just give that away. And I've been trying to do that a little bit more. So some of the NoFo event for the raffle, some of those bits of kit, if they're proper decent bits of kit, for example, and it's worth giving it to someone, that's what I've been doing. If it's brand new stuff, for the most part, I probably do sell that on. But yeah, that's something I've been trying to do.
I've got
basically trying to help out other people a little bit more.
Yeah, I've got like a lot of trousers from when I was back in my skinny days. I got a full AOR 2 set that was hardly worn. Like if people are after bits and they're like size 38, just drop us a message, because that's the stuff that's sitting there collecting dust. I find like webbing and things and pouches and stuff like that I know someone will have use for. They'll either go up for sale or it's like my universal pistol holster. I've given that to Darren because I've got my Cardex one now. I don't need the two. So he's just starting off. So bung it over to him. Like, makes no odds to me. So yeah, if anyone's looking for some trousers or AOR 2 sets, drop me a message. I've got some bits knocking around.
Les says, Andy, what do you have that sits in the corner? And Mike, same to you. So what's one item that springs to mind that you do have sitting there collecting dust? For me, it's my ballistic riot shield or ballistic shield that I bought. Haven't yet done anything with that. It's sitting just behind the net here. It's just really cool. I'm going to mount it to the wall, and I've got all these plans for it, but I haven't done anything with it yet. So
it needs to come out occasionally.
I was planning to take it out to NAE, which is sort of following on to the next question. But I'll let you answer your one first.
What do I have that sits in the corner? My old hammock. Doesn't come out often anymore. That's about it, really.
Is that just because you haven't got rid of it yet because it's the older one, or is it nostalgia?
No, it's sort of if I break my current one.
But that's hoarding.
Yeah. Like my weight is not going down. Like I'm trying, but my weight is staying the same. I'm losing inches, but
just double hammock. Job done.
Double hammock. Yeah, I mean, what double hammock straps? Like, you know those ton-rated straps that you get from. got two of those at each end. No, I don't. Like I said, like anything that does sit there and start collecting dust. Like if I notice, like, oh shit, I haven't used that for ages. It's gone.
Yeah.
Because I know with that money, like if it's something that's worth selling, I'll sell it. Because I know that if I have that money, then I can buy something that I need. Most of it is the last.
You've just muted yourself.
The last sale that I did went on ration packs, because I was running out. So I was like, "Yep, need them." I suppose my ration packs are sitting there collecting dust because I haven't done a lot of Sims.
Yeah, but you use those over time.
Yeah. But other than that, that's it.
So, Rich asks, and I've lost the question now, stupidly.
Oh.
Where's it gone? He said, thought you lot couldn't make NAF. So that's the National Airsoft Festival, which is next weekend. I'm going.
He's still going.
We had plans to all three of us be there. Unfortunately, we've had a variety of issues, which I'm not going to go into because I know that some of them are more personal than others. But for whatever purposes, Andy and Lance can no longer make it, which I won't lie, for me has slightly tarnished it a little bit because I was quite looking forward to the three of us being there.
Sorry, Mike.
I get it; it's not a problem.
I don't mind. Unfortunately, my missus is not particularly well at the moment, and we have some quite important doctor's appointments that we need to go to. But she's fine. Don't worry, it'll be good. But one, unfortunately, has fallen on the Saturday. But yeah, bit disappointing. But obviously, you've got to look after the wife because she looks after us. And without her, I wouldn't have any of this. So I'd be sitting in the corner all alone, no money. So yeah. Unfortunately, real life situations.
See, Rich says an NAF is crap airsoft with beer. I take umbrage with the number of people that say NAF is shit, and there is a reason for this. I grant you that the setup is designed so that you've got a nucleus. There is always like an active point in that game where there's a lot more battling going on than in other areas. I have had some of the best. Kieran. So Kieran's one of the guys that I've been with probably since 2015-ish. So it was originally my brother. He can't make it this year. My mates Bill, Matt, Kieran, and there was sort of a couple of others sort of ducked in and out. We've had some really quite surreal experiences at NAF. There was the point there was like 3 or 4 of us up against literally a good 50 to 100 others players coming down the side of a valley and then back up towards us. I've had some really quite fun times. And I'd like to point this out, in the main nucleus of this fighting that's going on.
I find that if you go to the outside, if you don't pay any attention to their storyline or their objectives.
So you can, don't get me wrong, there are main objectives and then there are other things that you can decide to do on your own. So for example, I've been involved with some patrols of just 20, 30 random players that I've kind of just gone, right, come on, we're all going to do a patrol and we're going to try and sneak up on the enemy position. So whilst that main nucleus is going on, everyone's drawn to that, it frees up a lot of the rest of the game zone. And you get to go and have that kind of more MilSim-esque experience where you can kind of do the sneaky approach and you kind of patrol in. And that's what I'm there for. I'm not there for the chaotic fucking thousands of BBs going over the top of your head because it's not much fun to me.
But this leads on to
that's why I take umbrage. I think that there are things that you can do, but granted, I do see the point that there's parts that aren't people's cup of tea.
The thing, well, like this weekend, I was playing at Rift Airsoft, which is a skirmish, and myself, Pegasus, Tony Pony, and Darren all kind of joined up. And we ended up basically taking over the snatch for the entire day. And we were acting
that's a vehicle for anyone that doesn't know.
Yeah. Just don't Google snatch. Put Land Rover snatch. And we were grabbing a couple of extra people because there was some seats, and we were doing like proper tactics. We were breaking through their line, going deep in, like behind their front line, debussing, moving through, capturing objectives, and then taking them out so the skirmish players could move through. So we were still using it. Like, you can use MilSim, or I would say MilSim tactics or real life tactics at a skirmish, and it does work. And it was one of the best skirmish days that I've had for a long time. So it does prove that you can use the tactics that you learn from MilSims in skirmishes, especially if you've got an open, like if you've got a big field, like a big open game zone, especially like NAE, you can move around. And if you're lucky enough to bump into another force that's doing the same thing, then you're going to have a good firefight. You can use your skills and drills in regards to cover and concealment and things like that. And honestly, I do think that although everyone kind of poo-poos it a bit, if you're sensible, you can get a lot out of a skirmish if you play how you want to play. And then basically,
There are
NA is
things
just
that
a
will ruin
massive
it.
skirmish.
There are things that will ruin it, and for example, that going back to that nucleus, that's a shit place to be. I've been at some events where the marshals have just started firing at people.
Hate
Not going to name names, but
Yeah.
but that was cack. I got proper fucking annoyed at that one. So there are things that specifically ruin events, but I would say that NAF for me holds a little bit of a special point because I've had some really good times there. And I just feel that maybe sometimes people haven't experienced it in the right way yet.
Yeah.
And this isn't an advert for NAE or NAF. It's literally just, yeah.
So just before you go on to the next question, I have one for the masses and yourself. So I played a game at a site recently that has a medic rule because they have quite a few players and the spawns are quite far apart, and they allow the medic rule. And part of the medic rule is if you get hit, you put your hand up and you call for your medic. But while you're calling for a medic, you're only allowed to say yes or no to if you're being medicked. So you've got your hand up. Can you be medicked?
Right.
Yes. Can you be medicked? No. Now, I noticed that a few players have worked out that if they play exactly by the rules, their player, like their teammate, can say anything they want and they will say yes or no. So the player would say, I could see them through the bush and they were aiming and they were like, yes. They were like, no, 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 pointed at me. And the the person calling for a medic said yes. And then the bush lit up. Now, is that cheating?
Don't talk.
Yeah.
Yes, dead players.
Is that cheating?
I mean, not. So it's not cheating if that's the rule for the game. All right. So I would argue that is possibly not the best rule. I'm not saying it's a silly rule because it's possibly been put in place for a certain reason. But yeah, exactly as Harry said, dead men don't talk. So
yes, but they're not dead.
But they are
wounded.
because in the context, yes, but in the context of an airsoft game, it's an honesty-based game, and I would disagree that provides any major benefit. I think the only thing you should be allowed to say is
call for your medic or your medic colour.
Medic. Or like bleeding out or something like that. Or stop fucking shooting me, I'm dead. I think that's probably something you can say as well. I don't think that's a very good rule, personally. I'd be interested to find out the caveat as to why that, or like the background and nuances as to why that's come in.
See, to me,
presumably that's come up for a reason.
For me, from what I understand, it was to encourage players to be medics. So you've got someone sitting there calling for a medic for 5 minutes and your rest of your team run past you like they do in Battlefield and every other game that you can medic someone. No one ever fucking does.
Yeah, but you see, that's a failure of that team then, and I would argue that team is potentially not going to do well because, I mean, some games, for example, you don't have like a regen thing. I've played some games before where it's literally got hit and you have to go and medic them. Oh, there you go. Pegasus said the rule on site was call for a medic and you can say yes or no into the regards to be safe to be medicked. Yeah, well, see, that's exactly. So you're saying if it's safe to be medicked, what's the advantage? The whole benefit is if you shoot someone, they go down. If you've got the element of surprise on them, you can wait for the next person to come up and take them down as well. Yeah, I don't like that. That's not. I'm not a fan.
I'm glad there is I've seen a lot of. I feel justified.
Yeah, so I'll bring him up. So Harry says dead men don't talk. End of story. Richard says cheating bastards. Harry says, even when you're making to be medic, just dead man don't talk. Paul Wales, that's cheating. Marky Mark, loophole cheaters. Pony Tony, it may not be against the rules, but it's bad sportsmanship. I mean, that's the problem. That's the problem there. So if you've got a rule in a game, it's not cheating. It's not, because that's the rule of the game. It's like Monopoly. There's a actual loophole in Monopoly. It's because it's a formal rule. If a player doesn't buy a plot, you auction it off. But a lot of people don't know that exists.
I do. But
it's not. But it's not cheating because you're playing it by the rules set on that event. Paul Wales, in the context of that, an injured but not dead player could indicate players. However, that would also allow enemy players to finish them off. Well, that's the thing. If you've got someone sitting there telling their players where I am, I'm going to keep shooting him. Like, that's the benefit of that. I don't agree with that.
No, thank you. We may move on to proper discussions now.
Yeah.
I just want to feel justified for a minute.
Pony Honey says another thing plaguing sites lately is people complaining they can't move when they have multiple ways to go and a lot of cover, yet we still get told to pull further away from them. I've not seen that per se. I have been to a number of events where probably the organisation of it is probably not very good on that context. So if you're struggling to move because there's certain pinch points and things like that, and you can't push up, and you're having the enemy force having to pull back, that to me is that you've got poorly set objectives, and you need to throw some additional objectives in there to draw, because otherwise you're just having a battlefield. And by battlefield, I don't mean the game. I mean like the World War One.
Yeah.
You know, you've just got lines of force going backwards and forwards, whereas you need to have that fluidity with everything so that you've got people and players all over the place. I don't know. I've not seen that. Have you?
Not really. I think you make a game what it is. I think a lot of organisers do try to get people to go to an area so they get the firefight, because we've all paid to play airsoft. We've all paid to shoot each other. And I think a lot of organisers recently have said, right, well, they need to have that battle every now and again. So they put objectives to pull people in. And unfortunately, if one team's not willing to push through, and the other team's not willing to, like, if you're both just happy where you are, you're just going to throw plastic at each other. But then, again, it's down to maybe organisers to kind of go, right, push forward, pull back. But then to me, that's the organisers trying to resolve the situation.
Yeah, I just think there's probably ways of doing it without saying push forward or pull back. I think that it's a case of setting objectives or providing some sort of transport or something like that I mean, it depends on the event and the game zone and stuff like that, because I appreciate not everyone's got that capability. I think for me, ultimately, this is what it boils down to, is the crux of it. I don't like games where I don't have the ability to outflank or kind of think about it or move between buildings and stuff like that, sort of try and move around the enemy and stuff. If to me, that's too many players at an event. And that's probably why I like MilSims more than general skirmishes. And I mean, that harks back to the whole NAE thing, and that I don't like being right in the middle where it's just literally firing at each other for no reason, because to me it's a waste of point. Like, waste of time, waste of money. Not going to enjoy it. Whereas if you've got the ability, you can, all right, I've got someone over there. I can move to the right. Someone can hold position here, draw their fire, and we can come in from the side.
So you're using your tactics that you've learned.
Yeah.
Through, more than likely, learned more through doing MilSims than you have doing a skirmish.
Whereas MilSim skirmishes, I mean, the best thing I've ever seen at a MilSim skirmish is riot shields were in play. And it was literally a guy. So you could fire a pistol with this riot shield if the riot shield was down. So you can't, if you're to fire your gun, you can't have the riot shield in front of you.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Okay. So he was running towards the enemy with his shield up, pistol just behind it, and then he would throw the shield down, take a couple shots, and then bring the shield back up again. And he was just really good at being quick with what he was doing, and he was maneuverable, agile, just got forward and basically just took a lot of people out. And then that's ultimately what skirmishes are. Skirmishes are just throw as many bodies at an objective, and you will get there. Because ultimately, it's the overwhelming force of numbers. MilSim is not like that, because you've got like hours potentially where you're dead if you lose life. your life means more in a milsim. Whereas with a skirmish, you've just got to run back and touch that flag, and then you're back out again.
Yeah.
Harry says, I shouted words of encouragement at players who come out of the spawn, just stand there, get shot, and then complain. Move. I'd like it if you actually shouted the phrase words of encouragement.
Actually, knowing Harry, he probably did. And he did a pose as well. It was like, words of encouragement.
I mean, Shift Your Riffs was a good example of this. So there was, I don't know the site well enough, unfortunately, to name certain locations. But as you go through like the entry gates and turn right, there's kind of some ammunition.
Echo base.
Like with breeze block buildings and stuff like that. And then you get out to the far end of that, and there's like a road up to a checkpoint.
Yep.
So right at the start of the day, there was such a cluster of people that were just stacked up, no one moving. The first two people are shooting around the barricade. The enemies, they've got a big defensive position. You're not going to get anywhere. You've got to push forward. You've got to put your numbers out to actually take an objective. All just standing there behind a barricade. For starters, the first grenade that comes over is going to take out probably 10 people. But people don't seem to think laterally. Like, duck down, crawl in. There was a little low bush you could crawl in, and that's what me and sort of 4 or 5 others did. We just crawled in round to the left-hand side, crawled through the bushes, and got into sort of a bit more cover. And then we were taking pot shots through the tree line, where we were in dense vegetation. Whereas the number of people that you see at airsoft events, they just stand there. And then you get some dickhead 12, 14 people back who's shouting, come on, push forward.
Yeah.
Lead by example. Just run ahead and just get in the fray.
Especially in a skirmish. You can just run, get shot.
Yeah. You don't have to get shot. You can still play it carefully. I'm not suggesting just like lemmings, just keep piling out, because you will kill your numbers quite quickly with that. But just lead by example, get people moving and try to instill that way. Don't just fucking shout at people like some backseat general. Hey ho.
There we go. We had our little rant.
Yeah. Rich says the jail is a perfect example of a site where flanks help.
Yeah.
Also did a game at UCAP where the entire team all blasted through direct towards the objective. The other team was overwhelmed. Exactly that.
Yeah.
It's... Ed says, I went to Redcon, it was a skirmish day, but when Andy arrived, it turned into a milsim.
Yeah, it did a bit.
So,
and then the bastard shot me.
Yeah, I think you got your own back with your little video that you put on the.
I thought that was rather clever. I thought there was nothing meant by Ed. It was meant with absolute love. I just thought it was funny because I was turning around and there was just this mess of where Ed was sitting and he'd gone. And I was like, oh, this is where Ed sits. I was like,
I had a question come in from Brad JS Millie. What's that comms company called, based in Ireland, I think? Is it 42 Communications or something along that line? Desperately in need of a decent full comms setup.
Yeah. So there is 2 companies that I would go for, which is JB. Is it JB? JB
JCI.
Communications. JCI Communications. And yeah, I think it is 42.
54.
54. There we go. We always get it wrong. He did my Peltors. They would be the literal only 2 companies that I would get in contact with. Both are excellent. We do keep trying to get one of them on the show, if not both of them, at different times.
Well, you say that. We haven't actually, I don't think, properly reached out to any of them yet, but the plan is to get somebody on the show. Oh, have we? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have anyway.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right, we didn't know that. So there you go. Yeah. So there you go. That answers that.
Yeah, they would be the 2 companies that I personally would ever use for comms communications stuff. Oh, and the aerials that are pretty good from Baz, from Octo.
Mm-hmm.
He does good aerials and he's got some good stuff and he's very knowledgeable as well.
TVAS? Tactical Vest Aerial System, maybe?
Yeah. It's on my vest,
Something
which
like
is downstairs, unfortunately. But yeah, very good.
There you go. Let's have a look. So Pegasus asks, building on what Les asked, what's the one thing you regret selling?
My soul. um,
I've got something springs to mind, so I'll let you think about yours. So, when I first got into airsoft, I started with a couple proper plastic double eagle BB guns from Just BB Guns, because I was like, I wasn't allowed BB guns growing up, and this was like university money, so it's like, this is cool. I'm gonna get some BB guns, and I'm like just plinking, and then sort of got into the world of airsoft. And a friend of mine, one of the other students on the course, was like, I've been airsofting for a few years. I've got a whole load of stuff up in storage. It's costing me a load of money a month to keep it in storage. I don't play anymore. Do you want it for 50 quid? I was like, yes, of course.
Of course.
And I ended up with six to eight massive boxes of stuff. I mean, this thing had a good 6 or 7 rifles in it. There were pistols, battery chargers. Like literally, it was like a startup kit for airsofters. And I ended up splitting it with my brother. And one of my biggest regrets is that he took the P90. Now, whilst the P90 is, the magazine on it was awful. The way that the magazines work on a P90 is just, it's not a lot of fun.
No.
But it was such a nice sounding gun. The way it was set up was nice. The silencer or suppressor or whatever that you put on the front actually made a difference to the sound. I don't know why or how, but it proper dropped the audio level. It made it a nice, like, it was just a cool little rifle. It's obviously Stargate SG1. I'm a big fan of that. Back in the day, so that was this sort of Stargate vibe. So that's something I miss. That he took that and then subsequently sold it, and I miss it. So yeah.
That's, yeah. I have to admit, the one that I probably regret selling, just because they're so expensive to buy another one, was my Ops Core half mask, gas mask thing. You know, the battle mask that they do. I had one of those. Got it at a pretty good price, but I never really used it because I didn't really do a lot of CQB games. And then all of a sudden, now I've started doing more CQB games that allow smoke, and now wish that I hadn't sold it. That would be my main one. And I have looked at new ones, and they're like $300 now. They probably were that much brand new, but yeah, a bit disappointed with that one. That was a silly mistake.
There you go. I haven't seen any more questions come in recently. If you've got any more, please feel free to throw them in the chat. That'd be interesting to discuss. Les says, what's the overall cost of kit that you're not using? Or that you are using? What's the overall cost of kit that you are not using, that you're not using? That you're not using. There you go. What's the overall cost of kit that you're not using?
£7. I sell, like, literally, this is the only bit of kit that I'm not, well, other than the belts. We don't count the webbing belts at the moment. But this is the only bit of kit that I'm not really stuck to my patches. That's literally a helmet cover. TMC TAC helmet cover. That's literally it. And the webbing. So say 57 quid.
Yeah.
If anyone wants that, by the way, message me.
I am not going to answer that question because I don't think I can actually put a number to it.
Thousands.
I really have spent too much money on airsoft.
Like,
bear in mind, I've been playing.
I like the way you've basically just broken Mike with one question.
Well, I'm just looking up at the wall. So, like, I've got my patches from Ground Zero. And my first one I got was 2015, and I know I started playing airsoft 2 years before that. So I've been playing since 2013, and I have spent a lot of money a year subsequent to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's my main hobby. It's probably one of my very few hobbies, to be fair, that I've got. And I do buy stuff. and I buy stuff that I don't need, and I know I don't need it, but it's cool, and I enjoy it. So I'm not going to put a price to it.
So moving on from that question, do you find that since you've got into more MilSim, Battle Sim style games, that you are buying more real steel or ex real steel ex-issued stuff?
Yes.
Or do you have you moved away? I don't mean this to sound cruel, but have you moved away from things like Emerson, Viper, and you've gone over to things like...
Right, so you've asked me 3 questions now. Hang on. So there was the, am I finding I'm buying more military real steel stuff? Am I buying ex-surplus stuff? And am I moving away? So
it's all kind of wrapped up in one.
Yeah, but there's 3 facets. So I'm probably buying more real steel stuff because I'm at a point now where I kind of know what I like and what I use, and functionality and features I can spot in a product that I'm looking at, and I'm like, oh, I like that. That's cool. That's better than the one I've got, etc. And they usually with the increased functionality, there's a higher price tag because it's probably more real steel than... I mean, you say real steel, but I mean, a lot of surplus stuff is the lowest bidder. So, for example, my Virtus bag system, it's got a lot of good features, but there's some features on it that I'm not quite so chuffed with. And at some point, I will probably change that out for a different setup. Now, at the moment, I'm happy with it. But it will probably be...
But it's still a real steel.
That's a real steel one, yeah. But the point being is that like Ryan is a good example of this. Yeah, he was talking and saying that, other than a few bits of kit, quite often soldiers nowadays will buy stuff from Civvy Street that's military specs in terms of the product and materials and the specifications and stuff, but it's not in current service because it's probably too expensive. So yeah, I am finding I'm not buying so much surplus stuff because the bits of surplus stuff I've got, I've kind of got enough of it in terms of doing what I need it to do. At this point, I'm looking for the extra functionality on things like doubling up on purposes and stuff like that. Now, the question about Emerson and Viper. No, I am not moving away from that. There are things that I still have that are Viper. So I really like the Viper single point slings. I've been trying to get Viper on the show, funnily enough. I did contact them at Shift Your Riffs, spoke to them there and sort of trying to get them on because I think that they are, they're a cheaper end of the market, but I think that there are bits of kit and stuff that they are producing that, whilst it's cheaper, it's not necessarily the worst stuff in the world.
No, we are talking... it's like their VX plates and things like that, and they're like that sling that's hanging down that I keep putting my head in front of, that one. That's Viper. That's their VX range. I've run that since it came out. Not a problem. And that I've got another one for my M249, and the weight of my M249.
Yeah.
And it's held up with that. Like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Viper, but most people would look at Viper as being a Airsoft brand, which it is. I very much doubt that you would have.
But they're moving away from that. So when I was talking to, I can't remember the name of the chap now, but there was one of the, I'm going to call it the big boy in Viper, but that's not in a detrimental way. But, from the chats I was having with him, they are now supplying bits of kit to various military forces. Now, it doesn't have to be, maybe they aren't the life protecting bits of kit, but if it's a decent enough bit of kit and it's it does the function and it's not going to break under the testing, etc., there's nothing wrong with it. No. I'm not saying that everything they do is amazing, but I've got pouches and stuff like that have lasted a long, long time. The single sling I really like personally. Yeah, so I wouldn't say I'm moving away from it, no. But that being said, there are bits and pieces that I probably won't buy. So, for example, and I'm not in any way with this statement implying that Viper iPro isn't up to scratch, but I probably wouldn't buy iPro at a cheap rate like that. For example, I'm for the most part tending to spend a lot more money on iPro or going to like some more of the slightly more not reputable, but in terms of just I don't know. There's something about Yeah,
They've been
it's all to do with the
tested.
testing and procedures and stuff like that, and
Well,
how
obviously
these
the
things are
Viper
kind of
ones have been
marketed.
tested, but like for example, like a lot of the ballistic rated ones, they've been tested for years. Like you've got a company that's been running for 10, 15 years making iPro, you're going to go with them, unfortunately, over Viper. But that, like, personally, I'm not. So I've never even looked at
I
it
don't think
because I'm
Viper
happy
actually
with
make
my.
iPro. To be fair, I'm just looking them
No.
up. I can't find any. But yeah,
But I'm not saying there's anything wrong with
New Pro's another example. So I used to have some New Pro mesh, and to me, you know, they seemed okay at the time, but having now made that transition to lenses because I've found some products that work for me and I don't struggle with them, I probably wouldn't drop back to that again. Not saying they're bad or anything like that. I'm just, you know, it's personal opinion here, but that's my take on it. How about you? Are you finding that you're... Because I know you're very much into the real steel stuff.
I like the real steel stuff, mainly since I've started running nods. Now I know this is going to sound elitist as fuck, but it's not. It's not that at all. It's the fact that now I can see when other players are wearing a cheaper brand, they do stand out with IR a lot more. And I obviously the real steel stuff has IR coatings and they're designed to not reflect as much with that. So if I know that I'm going to a MilSim where you are 99% guaranteed to be going up against other people with nods, then I prefer having that small advantage over their advantage.
Yeah.
Because really with nods, you only really see someone when they're moving. If someone's lying down in the grass, you're not going to see them unless you've got thermal or the thermal add-ons. If you're just running standard nods or even a white light, having something that reflects a light source back, you are losing that small advantage. My trousers aren't real steel and they glow up like a Christmas tree. So I'm looking at getting a decent set of trousers that are real steel that have the coatings on. But that's me not being a snob, but just trying to get that extra advantage, like seeing the advantage of having stuff that's been treated properly.
Yeah.
Once again, I ran a Viper plate for years. There's nothing wrong with it. And actually, I think I've still got one of their pouches downstairs because it's a really nice pouch because it fits Mark 5s in it perfectly. Like it's an ammo pouch, but it fits Mark 5s in it. So if I know that I'm going to be running a lot of pyro, so if I'm like head breacher or that's my role for the weekend, I will throw that one pouch on because I know that it will be handy for having pyro on me.
Sorry, Ed has just said Andy didn't buy nods to see in the dark. He bought them to identify the poor people with Viper clothes.
See, that's not what it was at all. I knew it was going to sound like it makes me sound like a twat.
We've got some important news. Lance,
breaking news.
whilst he can't be here, breaking news. The British Army roll mat is currently $7.99 on Prepper's Shop as a flash sale. So if you are after a British Army roll mat for £8, bear in mind you can also use the code NoFo10 to get an extra 10%, I believe. I'm pretty certain that's still working. I've not been informed otherwise.
No, it is still working.
There you go.
I used it last week.
And just to reiterate for anyone listening, we don't get advertising money or anything like that.
No, we just found it really funny last time.
We just like cheap stuff, and
it was hilarious last time, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, like literally, we mentioned obviously the short back Bergens or whatever like that. They're on sale for £10,
and we were watching it. And we just
watching the number.
We had a lot of fun with that.
There you go. Lance said the code is working. He's just used it. So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah. One thing I just want to point out. So Kieran has said my iPro were Viper. I bought them at my first NAE and they are still holding strong. So again, nothing against Viper. However, what I would just like to show you here is something. Hang on. Right. This is the Viper website. Okay, so this is Viper Tactical Shop. And again, I'm not in any way saying that these are not good eye pro. These eye pro are £3 for mesh glasses. Now, ignoring the mesh aspect of it, because I appreciate that, you know, there's people that like mesh and there's people that are very much against mesh. I've worn mesh for a long time because that's fine. I've worn mesh for a long time because I really struggled with fogging. I hadn't found a product that I was able to play with. And if I hadn't used mesh at that time, I probably would have given up the sport. So, but I would like to point out their website. They say that they are certified CE safety standard, but it doesn't say to what. You know, high density, high strength, polymer frame, custom steel mesh lens. So that's fine. You know, for all intents and purposes, we're going to assume that they are sufficient glasses and they are very cheap. They are £3. If you go to Edge, so this is some eyewear that I like to use at the moment. These are the Edge Sharp Edge. They're $30 US. I'm not quite sure what they are in the UK. I
think they're about 25 quid. 25 quid right. Over here.
25 kids. That's how much they cost.
25 quid.
Yeah,
25 kids.
These are glasses, obviously, so these aren't full seal. So there's obviously that safety risk as well. These tell you specifically what the standards are. You know, they are high spec ballistic standards. So it's worth checking what these things are when you're buying them, because don't just get suckered into the price. We've said before, you know, good eye pro, you've only got one pair of eyes.
Yeah.
But they come with a vapor shield, which I find is really helpful to keep the fog down.
But this is the thing that we were talking about, wasn't it? You can't rate a mesh goggle. You can't rate a mesh goggle because it's open.
Yeah.
A mesh goggle can't have a rating of protection because it has, in theory, no protection. Whereas like a lens one has to have a level of protection to stop it. But also, crazily, if you were going by the letter of the law, a motorbike helmet does not give you the correct amount of protection for your eyes.
Oh, because of the visor?
Because the visor isn't rated to the impact ratings that airsoft sites should be sticking to, in theory. Even though you could get hit in the face by a rock at 90 miles an hour and it just chips it, but it hasn't got an official rating. Something we found out recently.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, because it hasn't got the rating of what airsoft is asking for. Even though it'd be more than up.
Don't go running around with an airsoft, a motorcycle helmet.
An airsoft type. Yeah. Even though in
but
theory,
there you go. I mean, that's the point I'm trying to make in terms of like the products are not necessarily bad. I'm not criticizing the products, but what I would say is, you know, just because things are cheap doesn't mean that there aren't, for a little bit more money, you're going to get a heck of a lot more certainty with what you're buying. And I think that's the point. You know, horses for courses and all that. So,
morning, Phil. Glad you could join us.
Right, folders.
Right, folders.
Paul as well said Ryan had a burn hole in his roll mat. This could be an opportunity to remedy this. Yes, Ryan, get on it. Get yourself a cheap British Army roll mat. There's no other place that you could potentially get a roll mat from.
Yeah. Also, let us know if your poo chair survived.
Right, were there any other questions? Oh, yes. Forgot my username. Nods versus a £10 cheapo torch.
Shoot the torch.
Okay, fair comment. You shoot the nods.
Got to see me first. Because trust me, even without nods, I'll see you first because you'll be waving a torch around.
I think ultimately, I mean, we're going to, funnily enough, have a chat. Tonight's show was going to be originally about fighting in the dark. So we'll postpone that until...
Not like Star Wars where he has his eyes covered and he has to hit the ball. Not that sort of fighting in the dark. Fighting in night time.
Yeah, so we're going to be waiting until Lance is available for that one because we've got, you know, NVG and Lance got some thermal and then I've got some torches. I love a spotlight. Yeah, who saw that coming? So yeah, that's the that's the intention for that. But I mean, ultimately, let's be honest, it's going to be down to your budget, isn't it? I think any airsofter anywhere, if they had the ability to take the price away, if they had the ability to get nods or a super expensive torch, they're going to be picking the nods because it's just cool.
Yeah,
it is.
Also, everyone says, "Oh, nods, you're elitist." Don't buy that. If you want one, you've got your gun. Don't buy that second or third or fourth gun at 300 quid. Put that money to one side. And after not buying 4 or 5 guns, you've probably got enough to buy a set of Gen 2s. Just saying.
Yeah. I think, I mean, all I would say is with the elitism, I know what you're saying in terms of, oh, you're elitist because you've got nods. I think, unfortunately, there are a lot of people with nods. No, but there are a lot of people with nods who are elitist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they have that. Sorry, I've got something in my eye and it's causing me to eat. There are a lot of nod heads. Nod heads. I'm not saying they all are. They're not. You know, there's a lot of very nice people out there, but I think potentially it may be just be a case of you get the few that ruin it for the many.
But then you get that in every branch, like in every aspect of airsoft. Like, are the people that have a vehicle
HPA
that own a tank,
vehicles,
HPA,
snipers,
MWS, like they have a certain level of elitism as well. It all depends on how you look at it. Like, everyone used to think that TM, if you owned a TM, you were an elitist. Like, when I first started, if you had a TM, you were like looked upon with disgust, but also weird envy. It was really weird. Like, it was a very strange time for TM. It was just one of those things. But I just think you're always gonna get someone thinking that they're elite because they've bought a certain bit of kit.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that's never going to change because the human race always wants to outdo the other person.
Which, to be fair, they can do in the dark because they can see.
Yeah, without a torch.
Yeah.
Because also as well, it is pretty cool. Like, I'm not going to lie, walking, like, chipping around in the dark, going, I can see shit, and you can't. It is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I think if you give people the option, you know, I mean, I would be willing to bet if you gave people the option between, you know, I'm going to give you either here's a set of nods or here's a thermal. I'm willing to bet people would go with the thermal because the thermal is, in my mind, just that one step cooler than the nods. If you gave, it's. But then there's a cool aspect to it. Everybody wants the cool gizmos and gadgetry.
But Lance has come up with a really brilliant point, and me and Lance were talking. I think actually all 3 of us were talking about it. We said nods are awesome. However, he's used them, used nods several events, and it's made him complacent with the noise and movement at night because you can see. And I 100% agree with that. I do find myself, because I know where I'm going, I can see a branch in front of me, so I'm just crashing around it. Because I'm looking at the branch, but I'm thinking, oh, I'm not going to lose my footing. Whereas if you're in pitch black and you haven't got nods on and you're walking, you are utterly aware of every single sound. Even your breathing, you think you're breathing too loud. Whereas nods, you just kind of go, yeah, I'm breathing. Right? Because you can see everything. It's like a mental thing, where you're just kind of like just chipping around.
Yeah. I would like the ability, though, to not have to hold the back of Wayne's shoulder when we're walking around because I can't see.
Although it is quite funny as well when people, I've noticed it on a few events where I've had my nods on and the person a couple of feet in front has got like a really nice proper peg box. And they think that they've turned it off, but they haven't. They've put their IR laser on. and that they don't, obviously they can't see it because that's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
And you kind of like have to like nip past everyone and go, "You've got your IR laser on." People are like, "No, I haven't," and it's like, "Trust me, you've got your IR laser on." Everyone like, so that's something that people need to be aware of as well. Like if you do buy a nice bit of kit, like a peg box or even an IR torch for the look, always be mindful that you do have that possibility of making yourself noticeable with people that have nods.
Yeah.
So it's always worth checking your kit as well.
I mean, if you're on stag duty with a set of nods on, and all of a sudden you see a bright light shining around, you're like, oh yeah, that's someone with an IR torch. And then you see a laser come out the tree line and like just line up. Well, you know exactly where that person is. And it's the same thing for me with tracers. Tracer units are cool. You know, they look wicked.
Awesome.
I have been up against so many people with tracer units in the dark, like one-on-one, and I know exactly where they are because I can see them. Like you just have to follow the line back.
But that's another thing as well that I've noticed a few people starting to do now when they are using a tracer. They, especially in mid caps, and I do it in my LMG, is where they mix the ammo. So if you're running 2.8s, you kind of basically put like 5 rounds and then a tracer, like you would in real life. So it's the only occasional shot, so you know where your round's going.
Yeah,
I think it's quite a good tactic and quite a good way. It doesn't look as cool, but it does, especially on a MilSim sort of environment. It does work really well. But if you're in a CQB site playing against speedsofters, just whack it on full and just have your laser beam going.
It's just ridiculous. Like literally, it was a long war game, and we were laying in the tree line waiting for them to come up, and then they were doing the classic thing of just firing. You know, all airsofters, as soon as they get out into the field, right, I'm just going to test my rifle. It's like, fuck's sake, why are you doing that to start with? But, so they're walking towards us in the dark. We can see exactly where they are because every once in a while there's just this round of ammo coming out. We're like, okay, right, just wait. Now light them up. And with all three of us just laced them up and got them all. Because it was, it's just ridiculous. But they are cool. I do like, and especially like the Spitfires, you know, the little units.
Oh, the one that Lance gave me for the AK.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sexy as. I'm going to swear now.
That, like illuminates the gas and stuff like that.
Yeah, that is cool. Fucking sexy as fuck. In the dark, it looks bloody awesome. You don't even need tracers. It just looks awesome because of that gas. Like, that is probably the best gift I've ever been given, airsoft wise. I was like, that is so sick. And then he messaged me and goes, I think I gave you the wrong one. And I was really like gutted, but he didn't. It's okay. It's all cool. Thank you, Lance. I love you.
Yeah. Right, just quickly going through your comments because I'm conscious of the time.
We've rattled on a bit.
Yeah, we talked about that one already. Ed says, not Ed's. Yeah,
Not
those
Eds.
Viper detecting not Eds are the worst. Rich said Lance has joined the GBB gang. He's already in the cool kids. Fresh me, I don't own any, and I'm not fussed about having them. I like cutting about without them. Pegasus, I think that will get better with practice, Lance. I found the depth perception with when under nods cause me to make more noise. I mean, that's the thing, because you're not looking where your eyes are with nods. You're obviously looking from like there. Sort of off your face. So there's...
Yeah, but also as well, you don't, if you look, unless you're running digital, if you look down, you have to change the focus in. So you have to set your focus into a distance that you think is going to be useful to you. And I personally have mine set further away, just so I can see mainly enemy forces or people if I'm walking the dog.
You could do one for one and one for the other if you've got dual.
Yeah,
you can have one like far sighted and just basically walk along like that, depending on which way you go. Rich says my tracer has no IR signature unless it's firing. It also illuminates 1 in 4. Looks amazing on the M249. I imagine that's pretty cool. Paulus Wales, a big handful of tracer loaded into the mag first gives you a good indication you are getting to the end of the mag. That's a good idea. I mean, you could use 2 different colours for that as well. That's an idea.
That's
so
what I used to do.
Yeah, sort of like green or something like that. It's like your normal tracer, and then the red's the end of your mag.
Yeah, I used to do it. So the first 5.
Oh, sorry.
The first 5 were red. So I loaded in 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I knew as soon as I saw that first red round, I knew that I got 4 more shots after that. So you can get yourself prepped. No,
with an LMG, that would make no help, would it? It's like,
no, it doesn't.
Oh, I'm out. You'd have to load like 20.
And after running, but I mix half bottles in my LMG. Like the people that came to the intro into MilSim, that came down and had a shoot of the LMG under nods, just so people could see what like the difference of red tracers and things were. But yeah, I mix too, so it's not always a constant stream. Yeah, sometimes, unless you're really unlucky.
Pegasus, have you seen the smoke generating tracers? I've seen those. I don't know if you've seen them.
No, I haven't seen them yet.
So it's like a little unit that generates a little puff of smoke when you're flying fire. It's pretty cool.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, it's like shell ejecting stuff. Shell ejecting stuff's awesome until you then realise, oh, I've got to go pick all these up. Like,
unless you're
smoke ejecting tracers. Yeah, the smoke generating ones, they do look pretty cool.
I suppose it's just basically that, isn't it?
Pick things up.
It's just a vape. Yeah. It'll be a vape sort of idea, won't it?
Oh, that'd be cool if you could flavour it. My gun smells like raspberry.
The trouble is you end up with getting people just sitting there sucking on the end of their guns and you have a load of shots in your mouth.
Right, I'm just going to run through the last few comments because I'm conscious of time now. Les says, Mike, what's happened to the beard? It was starting to look messy. I had to take it off. I'm sorry. I'll try it again in future, but it's not looking good at the moment. Bigfoot Airsoft, I wish you could try before you buy, especially with riffs.
A lot of shops you can now. I know Only Airsoft. They have 2 stores, one in Stevenage and one somewhere else. They'll let you try a weapon before buying it, and I'm pretty sure White Sphere Tactical do as well. Like if you went down to one of the game sites at Rifts where they've got one, I'm sure they'll let you have a little black with it.
I mean, I guess it depends where you're buying it from, doesn't it? Like if say you're buying something from Patrol Base, I'm pretty certain Patrol Base have a range, I believe.
I've never been up there. The one person
no, but that's the
Pegasus. Pegasus.
Pegasus, let us know. But if you're obviously buying it from down south, from up north, you're not going to have that opportunity necessarily. So,
but always ask. Always go if you go into a shop. If you've got a local airsoft shop, ask. They'll either say yes or they'll say no. If they say no, you still haven't really lost out on asking. Never be afraid to ask.
Going back to the merch, Rich says if you want to do merch, you need to do a November Foxtrot camp bag, especially for Lance. We'll just do like a little extender piece that you just fit in to make them really easy to put in. The Paulus Wales November Foxtrot Portaloo survival kit would be amazing. That's something we could actually do quite easily. That might have to be something we consider. Les says the NoFo air freshener owed to surplus.
Yeah, we need to get that
before. I think. Oh, Rage says I've been doing training. So this is right back at the beginning. I've been doing training sessions with some guys. Says everyone who got caught dogging. Pony Tony, that was the first day with weighted plates. I turned left while running. My ankle did not, so I twisted that. Plus the weight ended up nearly breaking my ankle. Sorry to hear that. Paulus Wales bought some weighted plates, but bought flat ones, which are a pain. Tempted to see if I can put a slight bend in them. Not sure if it's just going to fuck them up though. You can maybe take them to a machinist. There are machinists out and about that might be able to do it for you. Maybe consider that.
Put it over a speed bump. Drive over it.
Or that.
Slowly.
2 different options for you there. Take whichever one takes fancy. Cool. Oh yeah, Pegasus says I believe their new shop does have a range, so that's Patrol Base. Cool. Right. Next week we're probably we're going to be having Mission Tailors on the show.
Yes, next week. Yes.
So we're
finally nailed him down.
Yes. So we're going to be talking to him about all things customized clothing. We've had him on the show before a long time ago now. It's been a bit of a while, so we're going to have him back on to catch up. Yeah, should be good. In the meantime, if you want to get in touch with the show with any questions or anything like that, you can do so on our email at nofochat@hotmail.com. Our Instagram is at November_Foxtrot_NoFo, and the website is novemberfoxtrot.co.uk. You can also get in touch with us at 9volt Airsoft, at @callsign_Crossmaster, and at the _punished_1_. There you go. That was remembered well.
That was, wasn't
it? Yeah. So if you ever forget those, they're also on the November Foxtrot one, so you can just go on there and you can find us through that as well if you want to talk to us specifically individually, or just chat to us on the main ones, and all three of us can pick those up. Please feel free to give us a like. Just helps us beat the algorithm.
Yeah.
If you want to subscribe as well, that'd be grand. If you want to share it, that'd be cool. But just a little like, really, really helpful.
Yeah. You don't have to, but it would be appreciated.
Just appreciated.
Yeah.
Other than that, if you are at NAE or NAF this weekend, give us a shout. I will also be, not like it's a celebrity thing at all, just if you're around at the Military Odyssey on Monday, I'll be there too. Let me know and we can meet up for a high five or something really weird or like that if you really want to. But hopefully, as of next week, I'll have a few little extra purchases maybe. What I'm particularly looking forward to is trying to find the stall that I went to last year that had all the US MREs, because I want to see if I can get a few of those cheap. Because there's a few flavours of those I've not had. And
I haven't had the pizza one yet.
No, that's one of them. And the meatball marinara one that I had a while ago, I want to get another one of those because that was proper good as well.
Get the I've forgotten which one it is. It's the pork patty breakfast one.
Okay.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
I'm just going to build a shopping list and I'll just go along and be like, I want all of these. And throwing it to Lance, please feel free also to leave us a review. So we've obviously got reviews on Apple Podcasts, which is iTunes,
Facebook.
YouTube
doesn't do reviews, does it?
I don't think that's what I was just trying to work out if it did. I know Spotify doesn't. But please leave us a review. We will read them out in a funny voice.
Are we on Spotify? I didn't even realise we were on Spotify.
We're on Spotify, but they can't do reviews on Spotify. Yeah. Other than that, Andy, any closing remarks?
Yes. Don't ask, don't get. Don't ask, don't get.
And Pegasus has left a review. The latest episode stayed surprisingly on track without Lance. Bring back Lance. Hopefully, Lance will be back next week.
Yeah, if you do leave a review, you can't on YouTube. I've just checked. If you do leave a review, make sure you put which language you would like Mike to attempt to copy in the reading of your review.
Yeah, because let's piss off the entire world all at one go.
I want to see your Russian one.
Oh, no. Right. We'll see you all next week. Say goodbye, Andy.
Bye, Andy.
See you all next week. Have a good one.
See you later, guys.
Stay NoFo.
Stay NoFo.
Ciao.
Ciao, Bella.
We haven't had that one in a while.
Spank it.